That wasn't lightweight. I had to put that on there.
Might go get some of my kids.
You would call me, you call me, you would call me to see them.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw that, ladies.
I just,
the radio
one, yeah, I gave them to y'all to get the contract back to you.
Yeah, I'm about to do it.
You can do it online, but I do it online stuff. I don't feel like dealing
You've been chasing one.
with it. I can either do it online.
His grandkids go to the bill for the 29th. Between ball games and dancing.
I wrote 10 something. You don't know them.
Went to school together. So no, today was,
I know I missed the last one, we were in Tennessee.
where they do the training for when they have problems in the city, that shooters come and shoot up
I imagine it is. I can't wait.
Make
I
sure
only
that
have
we have
13.
close connection.
Pass files.
Get her wife lets me go in.
Well, all it is that you get a different job.
Yeah, right.
It's about,
The second,
But I can, because I think I'm thinking a little bit more of my skill.
that's,
Somebody else.
you wanna do it all on there?
Maybe not.
maybe not.
Yeah, but you have through the end of the year to get it here. Through the end, you got, just so I have it by sometime in January. Oh, yeah.
I'll go to the table.
Judy Brock.
I don't count. You know I don't count, Miss Blue.
I'm gonna tell you when I get home.
You good?
This is chip.
Yeah. Hey, he went to pick up his girls.
We rode by that solar system out there on Rosedale Road. That's a big There's a mud hole over here.
You don't have, you very close.
But both of us in the same position.
I'm in office at 6 or 7.
But I
I
do.
get up and go work out at 4 o'clock and then just
That'll take up the dress. Or if you want to.
Couldn't go back. Should be sleeping on one thing.
I'm gonna have to get away from y'all. I just rather be at work early and just get home. Of course, I'm so tired. I can, products like our classes.
Thinking he's walking.
I have a little workie that reminds me when I need to.
There he is.
Not my dog. They just lay down. They don't even get up.
You want to try it?
He's on time.
Not even.
He can wing it at the last minute.
Okay, I'm done.
Am I crowded your space over there? You good?
me.
That's you?
Well,
Well, that's what you want.
And you saying
Both of them.
my cousin?
No, we're not. I'm not married. Carrie took his place.
No. Did you touch the air?
small.
Kiwi, did you fiddle with the air?
That's the beginning of the universe.
Yeah, did you fiddle with the air?
That's right.
Oh, riff. No, I got it. I got it up here. It was set for 60.
60.
Yeah.
That's a little bit much.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's funny.
Okay, it's 5:30. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting of the zoning commission to order. If you would, all silence your cell phones and electronic devices at this time. And this time, I'm gonna ask our former planning and zoning member, Mr. Kerry Densel, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
Thank you. Roll call. If you would, please mark your computer that you're present. Oh, we have 100% quorum. Thank y'all, people. Okay. This time, I believe y'all all have a copy of the minutes of the previous meetings. So if there are no additions or corrections, please mark your ballot to approve them. Motion second.
I got a first from Ms. Alfred and a second from Russell.
Okay.
Todd? Ms. Jackson? Ah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Minutes are approved. Correspondence.
I only have a couple of items here. The parish has its annual ethics and sexual harassment training. Y'all are all invited. It's November the 20th at the Port Allen Community Center from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. There's always coffee, sometimes donuts. If you don't want to do it this way, you can do it online, but I need this done by the end of the year so we can roll into the new year with everybody trained. You will have, there's only one meeting in November and December. This is your meeting for November. December, our meeting is on the 3rd. We do have an agenda for that, and we do have a meeting in January. A lot of times, we don't have anything, but we are rolling this year. Let's see, ethics, training, that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. This time, I'm going to open up the public hearing for file number 3A and 3B. File number 3A, 2019-21, special use permit to allow moderate industrial use in an I-1 zone for TMI Enterprise. File number 3B, number 2019-21, special use permit to allow moderate industrial use in an I-1 zone for TMI. Okay, is anybody here to represent that? Okay.
I'm gonna get us kicked off here, Mr. John, Kevin Durbin, Planning and Zoning Office. You know, one of our jobs as the Planning and Zoning Office is to make sure that landowners aren't held up in their application process. So when someone comes in to apply for something, we try to be as expeditious as we can in getting them through the system. It's not unusual when you have a draft ordinance in front of a body like yours that the applicant may anticipate that draft ordinance being adopted. And that's exactly what happened in this particular situation. You had a draft ordinance come before you a few meetings ago that would have allowed for this type of an application. It did not receive a favorable vote from this body. It did not receive approval from the council either. Mr. Veely did apply for that designation. He did that at his own risk, knowing at the time that there was a chance that the ordinance would not get adopted. So at this time, we as the staff are asking you obviously to deny these two items as they are out of order at this time. And we would ask Mr. Veely to concur with that request as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. This time I'm gonna close the public hearing.
I have no objection to it being denied. The
Yeah.
first part.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, now, at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain a motion to dispense with item A and B.
All right, so it's to deny.
To deny, and the reason for denial is because the ordinance didn't pass and
Correct.
it's no longer in order.
Does everybody understand? Okay.
Yeah, A and B is okay.
Okay, if you wouldn't mark your ballot. Okay. 100%. Okay, at this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Item number 3C, 2019-22, rezone from I-1 to I-2 moderate industrial, 1815 Laverton Lane, Port Allen, Track B, being a part of Margaret Plantation, in Section 64, Township 7, South Range 12 East, Southeastern District, west of the Mississippi River, in West Baton Rouge Parish for TMI and Air Liquide. Okay, is anybody here to represent that? Hold on, we're looking, hold on, Ms. Ryan.
Public hearing, I'm first on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, they usually
We're waiting for the,
speak before the
Ms. Stacy.
I'm not an opponent.
Huh?
I'm not an opponent. I'm not a proponent or opponent.
Mr. Chairman, it's not unusual to let the applicant speak first.
Yeah, well,
Is it a 3-minute rule for the applicant?
yeah.
Thank you.
Wait for the applicant to make their presentation, then we'll ask for anybody in the audience that has comments. Yes, ma'am. Okay, anybody for the applicant make the presentation? If you would, let's not have any comments from the audience because we have a camera behind you and a loudspeaker. And we're trying to get all the comments and the people on the tape, so we'll have a proper record of the proceedings. And we'll ask y'all when you come up there to please sign the tablet in front of you where we'll have your name. And we'd like you to state your name when you come up to make a presentation.
Okay.
Or make a comment. Thank you.
Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Marty Giles. I'm with Air Liquide. I work in Air Liquide's Large Industries Group, and I'm representing a project that we're proposing to build in the West Baton Rouge Parish. We have, let's go to the next slide. Air Liquide, just a quick blurb about Air Liquide. We're one of the world's leaders in industrial gases. We produce oxygen, nitrogen, and argon from the atmosphere. We separate the atmosphere and supply those gases to our customers. Some of our customers are in the healthcare industry, and some are in heavy industry. Quick facts about Air Liquide in the United States. We employ over 20,000 people. We have 1,300 facilities, 140 industrial gas plants, 2,000 miles of pipeline. We have 2 headquarters in the United States. One is in Houston and one is in Radnor, Pennsylvania. And our pipeline system in Louisiana has served Louisiana for over 40 years. And we'd like to continue that by expanding in West Baton Rouge Parish. This is a quick slide of our pipeline system. It is about 100 miles long. It is 2 pipelines that are basically side by side, oxygen and nitrogen gas pipelines. They run at about 600 PSI, and they supply our customers who make chemicals and also pharmaceuticals along this corridor from Baton Rouge down to New Orleans. So for getting right to the project, Air Liquide has signed a contract with Methanex, who Methanex will build a new methanol facility in Geismar. And we would like to our plan is to build 2 large air separation units as part of this project in order to supply Methanex in part. And we would like to build one of those in West Baton Rouge Parish if we could work out the details of that. So we're here to propose one of the sites that we're evaluating that we're very keen on, which is Lofton Lane. It has many advantages for us. The 2 key advantages are its physical location. Our plant requires a large supply of electricity from Entergy, and Entergy's power wires are literally adjacent to this site. And our existing pipelines that we need to connect to in order to distribute the gases to our customers are literally adjacent to this piece of land. So for that reason, the Lofton site caught our attention very quickly. Time is of the essence. We need to select a site very quickly because we need to be on site early next year doing our work and preparing the site for bringing in the large pieces of equipment that will be erected and assembled into the air separation unit. Just a quick couple of construction photos to give you an idea of the scale of the plant, so you can have a look at that. Right now we have over 200 full-time employees in Louisiana. Most of them reside in West and East Baton Rouge Parish. And during the construction of the air separation unit, we will employ over 300 at the air separation unit doing its construction. And we expect that peak to be there for about 8 months. Operations overview, the ASU will run continuously except for when it's during turnarounds, which happen every 3 years to 4 years. Otherwise, it will be running continuously. It produces 3 products, a gaseous oxygen, gaseous nitrogen, and liquid argon on a regular basis. The gaseous oxygen and nitrogen will leave by pipeline. The liquid argon will leave by truck, and there will be about 5 trucks a day that will leave the site to distribute the argon throughout the United States. The plant will have people employed at it continuously. There will be 8 to 10 employees that will be dedicated just to the operation of the plant. On top of that, we'll have employees that are dedicated to the maintenance of the plant that are shared between various plants that we have in Louisiana. Some of those people will be new hires and some will be transferees, and we're in that process of working that out right now. As far as utilities and effluents go, it's a relatively simple plant. We basically use electricity to run a large air compressor. The air compressor takes in air from just the atmospheric air. The air is separated cryogenically. It's liquefied, turned into a liquid, separated by a rectification tower into its pure oxygen, pure nitrogen, and pure argon components, and those are distributed to our customers. We will consume electricity, industrial water, which we'll get from a well that we will drill on the site. Natural gas, it will be used in small quantities to regenerate the front-end pretreatment system. And then we'll use potable water for our operations personnel for just safety eye washes and bathrooms. And we'll have one effluent from the facility, and that will be the cooling tower blowdown that will come from the cooling tower, and that'll be about 140 gallons a minute of cooling tower blowdown. That's it. That's the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to entertain their questions.
There was some concern about noise pollution. Can you expound on that, please?
The plant has a large air compressor, so we'll be drawing in air from the outside. At the fence line, it's about 78 decibels of sound. So if you were standing next to it, you would be experiencing 78 decibels. The OSHA basically requires that if you're exposed to 85 decibels that you wear hearing protection. So we're below that, but 78 decibels, I'm not going to tell you is extremely quiet. That's 78 decibels, so it is noisy. It's basically if you were standing on a busy street and traffic was going by at 50 to 55 miles an hour, you would be experiencing noise of this level. So we don't necessarily want to build it next to, adjacent to homes, because that would disturb the homes that are living right next to it. We've looked at it, and this facility will be about 3,000 feet, about a half a mile from the nearest home, inhabited facility. We don't think that that is going to cause undue harm to those people.
I have a question on, I understand, looking at your presentation, thank you, that was a very, very good presentation. The oxygen and all, you're not required under OSHA 1910-119, but does your company go through something like a hazards analysis, like a what if?
Yeah.
Certain,
Yes,
could you-
we do a HAZOP in the,
Okay.
during the process of assembling the plant, prior to actually going to the field, we do a HAZOP,
Okay.
yes. But it's relatively standard because our plant is a copy of a plant that we've built elsewhere. We have one of these plants that's an exact copy that's operating in Port Neches, Texas. We are building one in St. James Parish. We are building one in Bay City, Texas. And we will build another one of these along our pipeline system as a sister plant to the one that we want to build here in West Baton Rouge.
Do you also do something like a blast analysis? Or is it, I know it's not required.
Yeah, no, we don't do a blast analysis for an air separation unit.
Okay.
No.
Curious about O2.
Right. The oxygen itself is not flammable, although it does support combustion. So we do not do a blast analysis. It's not required, so we don't do a blast analysis for an air separation unit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you look at it being 2.5 years before y'all go online producing?
Yeah, we would be operational in, our timeline right now is to be operational May of 2022.
Cooling tower system, what type of water treatment do you have for your cooling tower? I know some of them have chlorine, and I think there's other alternate treatments now.
We're going to be using, and I can recover the data that I've gotten from our water treatment folks. What they've told me is that they're going to be using corrosion inhibitors in very small quantities in the parts per million level. As far as chlorine goes, I don't know if we'll be using chlorine or not.
Because that would have to be stored on site, some type of cylinder of chlorine, if it is used in the treatment.
Would that be against your local rules to have chlorine stored on site?
I mean, they have chlorine at most of the water plants, water towers in the parish to treat put in there, it's usually a cylinder. And, I know we had one, it was a smaller cylinder that, ruptured on us in, the southern part of the parish. But it was minimal, the wind was favorable for, where the residents were, and no harm was done. But in some industries, they're like a 2,000-pound cylinder of chlorine, and that would be a little more riskier, I would think.
I can get you more data on our water treatment protocol and send it to you, and you can distribute it.
Okay.
And to just expand on that a little bit, maybe just a chemical inventory list of any other things that may be on site.
Yes, we can get you that. Mhm.
Marty, I can speak to that briefly. Typically, we don't use chlorine.
Hold on. No comments from the audience. Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any questions or
I have a
comments?
question. With all of the other plants that you have, I know there's a streamline of them, and with this location, I know that has restriction guidelines and all that. What's the worst case scenario, or what kind of hazard could possibly be, even whether it's expected, unexpected, whatever, be presented to the public? What the worst case scenario as far as exposing the public? Is there any situation?
Well, what we're making and manufacturing is the air that we're using, the air that people breathe, and basically separating it into its pure components. So those components, for instance, one of them is nitrogen, and what we breathe is a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen. So one of the things that we always want to be careful of with nitrogen is that we acknowledge that you cannot breathe nitrogen alone because it doesn't have oxygen in it. So one of the things that we always want to be careful of is be careful to not have an enclosed area that can become filled with nitrogen where a human would be exposed to that. And so we have very rigorous plans and operational techniques that disallow any of our operators to enter an enclosed area that may be filled with nitrogen. And so, and Paul LeBon, who just stood up a minute ago, could tell us more about that. That comes to my mind as probably something that we always bear in mind in our business, is that we are manufacturing nitrogen, and it does not support human life. So with a very short exposure to a pure nitrogen atmosphere would be very dangerous. The good thing is nitrogen is warm, and when it comes out of our plant, it's not cold any longer. It's at ambient temperature, and so if it does escape from the pipes, it will mix with the air again, and within 10 feet of that point where it's escaped to the air, you can stand there and breathe the air, and you would not be exposed to any dangerous situation. What we want to be careful of is if there's ever an enclosed area, that nobody can get in that area without supervision. So we have a fence around the plant to keep the public out of the plant, because we acknowledge that there are some instances in our plant that can be dangerous. There aren't a lot of them, but that's the one that comes to mind. Did I answer your question, Ms. Jackson? Kind of, sort of.
The thing you kind of hit on what I was thinking or inquiring about, like, we know equipment and sometimes it can fail, and that's the thing I was concerned about. A guard that would back up a faulty equipment, or just something that would not, if it would go haywire, what would be the worst case scenario? But you pretty much hit on this.
Well, okay, in our HAZOPs, when we do our HAZOPs, one of the things we think of is what can happen if gas or a liquid gas gets caught in a pipe and two valves were to close at the end of that pipe, and then the liquefied gas would expand. And so in part of the HAZA process is to know that we never have two valves that can close without having a relief valve on that piece of pipe, so that if the liquefied gas was to expand, it can be relieved by a relief valve. That's very fundamental to our HAZOP process. We never want to trap a liquefied gas in a piece of pipe between two closed valves without having a vent valve on that piece of pipe. And so our plant is well designed, and it has vent valves everywhere that particular phenomenon can happen. And that's something that we always want to guard against, because that is the predictor of where there could be a failure, is if you were to trap a liquefied gas between two pieces of pipe, two valves in a piece of pipe.
And those PSVs vent to atmosphere, I would assume.
They vent to atmosphere, exactly. Yeah, because we're only dealing with gases that are from the atmosphere. So we're fully within our rights to just vent it back to the atmosphere. It mixes immediately, and it's back to atmospheric purity within seconds. Yeah.
A follow-up on the equipment. Does this particular process utilize brazed aluminum heat exchanger?
It does. It does. We use brazed aluminum heat exchangers. Yes, we
I know there's
do.
been some industry issues with thermal fatigue on these particular exchangers, and I was wondering if your company has addressed those issues, what process controls you have in place to prevent that thermal fatigue?
It's a good question. We do not experience significant thermal fatigue in the brazed aluminum heat exchangers themselves. At about 30 years of age, we do see some of that. Okay, so it takes a long time. So we do have some 30-year-old heat exchangers that we've replaced. New heat exchangers are taking those learnings into account. So these will be brand new heat exchangers on this unit. But what we don't use is we don't use aluminum pipe in our cold box. We use stainless steel pipe in our cold boxes. We find that aluminum pipe in our cold boxes suffers more fatigue than the brazed aluminum heat exchangers. And when the fatigue comes when you start the plant and stop the plant, it expands and contracts. And the pipes tend to break way sooner than a brazed aluminum heat exchanger, yeah.
Okay.
So we use stainless steel pipes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
how is the plant's overall safety record, a hazardous record, or whatever? How do y'all rate with something like that?
Well, we're, I had a slide and
TRIR by any chance?
I'm sorry?
TRIR, total reportable
I
incident rate?
have that, I have the data on that. I did not bring it with me, and I can submit that to you. It's actually very good. It's in an older set of slides. Louis is bringing it forward for me. There we go. Air Liquide's accident frequency rate has reduced by more than a factor of 2 over 20 years. In 1992, we had an average accident frequency rate of 4.3 number of accidents per million man-hours worked. In the latest data from 2016, that number was 1.4. So we always work to reduce and have a safe operation. And so we have good statistics to support that.
Sounds good. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the commission?
Just to back away from the mechanics of the company, how many jobs do you think this would bring to the community? I know you mentioned about 8 to 10.
There will be 8 to 10 operators that are at the plant.
That's here, at this location?
At this location, that's right. In addition to that, there's always services that are required to run our plant. So we will be constantly be using services. I can't say exactly how many people will be used, but there are services, there are ancillary services that are needed to run a big plant like this. So we have 8 to 10 direct employees, but there's constantly people that are being employed in the plant to help fix small things that need to be taken care of. I think Paul maybe can talk a little bit about that when he gets a chance.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, we have a bunch of people here that want to talk, so if we could try to keep the comments down to a 3-minute time limit. I'm going to try to get through everybody's comments, and if you hear whatever you were going to say come up in the subject, well, it's time that you don't have to spend on that part. You can take it on something else. But at this time, I'm going to open up the audience for any comments in the audience that they want to come up here and speak. I'll ask you again, make sure you're at the podium when you speak, and we want you to state your name and write it down on the tablet. Ms. Stacy?
My name is Stacy Krebs. I live on Margaret Plantation. It's Lafayette, not Lafayette. It's Lafayette for us locals. The map that's being shown overhead, if you look to the south, to the west, continue west all the way to 415, continue north to Lafayette Lane, all of those maps have my name on them. My name is Stacy Turner Krebs. I am the owner. My name is listed as a landowner. By law, once again, less than a year later, I'm standing before you to tell you I never was served a notice of this public hearing. I am an adjacent landowner. I own to the south, to the west, and to the north of this public hearing, and I was not duly notified. What y'all want to do about that, I suggest y'all discuss it. Do I know, am I aware of this situation? My phone has rang for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for about 5 months now. I am well aware of Air Liquide and Louis and the commission and the parish council. I'm well aware of this 50-page PowerPoint presentation, but legally, as a landowner of 406 farming acres and 14 acres of residential land, that is my house, guys. The only house next to Air Liquide is my house. I did not get served notice of this public hearing once again. We would have thought you would have learned a year ago. I'm not a proponent or an opponent of the project. I don't know anything about what that man just told you. I got no clue. I know it's 200 feet up in the air, 78 decibels. My property line butts up to his. You know what separates his from mine? One little row of sugar cane of 2 feet. He's telling me at 78 decibels, 2 feet from his fence that he's got to put up, I'm going to have to wear earplugs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of my life. Earplugs, 78 decibels. My house, the only house is my house. I did not get served. Every one of you have received letters and emails and phone calls. My name is all over these letters. It should be obvious how I stand. It's not because of Air Liquide. I want Air Liquide. I'm getting death threats. I'm getting phone calls. I'm getting nasty letters. I'm getting things left on my doorstep. I am not anti-Air Liquide. Come to West Baton Rouge. Hire our people. Build your 200-foot tall structures, please. That's my house. I got 2 feet. I'm going to live the rest of my life with earplugs. And I wasn't served a notice of this. That's my 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Stacy. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know Ms. Krebs is going to say anything she can say to disparage our office because she's a co-signer on the letter that already had some disparaging comments in it. I want to make it very clear to this body, since she's accusing us of not doing our job, that the law requires us to send certified letters to these adjacent property owners. My understanding, Ms. Lynn can tell you better than I can, that a certified letter was sent to Ms. Krebs, and perhaps that letter either didn't make it from the post office to her box, or maybe she just didn't sign for the card and go pick it up. I don't know. But I can tell you, we followed the law. Ms. Klein can testify to that. Furthermore, if she wants us to start hand delivering notices to every single adjacent property owner in this parish, we're going to have to shut the office down because we don't have the staff to do that. But we did send a certified letter to Ms. Krebs, and I'll let Ms. Klein answer that.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any comments?
Yes, sir. Mr. Skelton, my name is George Hill. I'm one of two managing members of Homestead Plantation LLC, and Homestead Plantation LLC owns the property to the east and south of the proposed site. I would like to make a few comments. I have a copy of the parish ordinance 11178, and it says the proposed use will comply with the general public interest and welfare, and that has not been shown. And then it says it will not cause undue congestion of streets and traffic access. Now we just learned a few minutes ago that there will be 800 workers at the plant, construction workers going in and out for 3 years on Lafferton Lane. So that does look like it would cause a lot of congestion. But the one that I really want to pay attention to is item D. It will not negatively affect in any way surrounding properties and neighborhoods. Well, it's obvious that this will. As we made in a letter to the commission, we pointed out that it would be obnoxious. It would be have a 78 decibel hum wherever it's operating. That there would be a medical cylinder, as they've showed us pictures of it, and you can see this medical cylinder sticking up in the air and be towering over the adjacent properties, because you've got a little narrow sliver of land that they tend to build it on, and it would just be very offensive, and we think it would be very damaging to the property values and to future development. We think it would be likely force heavy industry development in that neighborhood. Now, this would impact the master plan. And you have 3 proposals on the table here tonight, and they all would bring you the same effect, that we would have heavy industry south of Lafferton Lane, well south of Lafferton Lane, because they intend to build on the south end of the tract, and it would bring it closer and closer to Port Allen, into West Baton Rouge Parish, and I just don't think y'all want that. And I ask y'all to vote this thing down. So that is my comments, and I thank you for it, and I will sign this and get out of the way. By the way, Mr. Marty Giles is a nice guy, but we don't agree with him.
Okay, thank you, Mr. George.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Does anybody else want to have any comments?
My name is Greg Stewart. I own Safeway Transportation in here in Port Allen, and I employ about 200 people as well in the trucking industry. We use a lot of nitrogen. We use a lot of oxygen. We use nitrogen to keep things from exploding. Let's put it as an inert gas on top of a lot of chemicals that are produced in this area to keep things from exploding. Trucking is great. They're going to have 5 trucks a day coming out of this plant. That would be good for my industry, good for my workers, good for my people, good for the tax base of this community. I pay a great deal of taxes in this community. I would love to share that burden with Air Liquide. So much of it would have to come out of my pocketbook. So I just think all the things that could be done in this community, and this is a great community to work in and to be a part of, and I just think of all the great things that a larger tax base could bring to this community. The jobs, the opportunities are just innumerable. I've been around Air Liquide locations. They're quiet, they're well-maintained, they are very efficient, and they're generating something that's very good for our environment, whereas on the other hand, many of the others have things that are detrimental to our environment. Thank you very much.
Okay, did you sign the tablet?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please, sir. Thank you for your comment. Okay, is anybody else would like to make a comment? Here comes another. Hold on.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Desiree Lemoyne, and I do public and external affairs for PC Electric. We are an electric cooperative that serves Point Capee, West Baton Rouge, and Iberville Parish. And we would like to advocate on behalf of Air Liquide because it would put this tract of land in commerce. And we like commerce because we also, just like our competitors, like to light up some industry. So we support this and hope that you will too. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have one. I mean, do you have any negative comments about Air Liquide and Plaquemine or Guys?
No, sir, I don't. In my other life, I worked in the chemical industry, so I know what they do. They don't scare me. I'd also like to tell you that when you buy a bag of chips, most of what's in your chips is nitrogen, which keeps your chips crisp and crunchy. So I just know a lot of little tidbits, and I support the industry. I know that they operate safely and would hope that West Baton Rouge would see fit to allow them to operate here.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Did you sign the book?
I will.
Okay. Would anybody else like to make a comment?
Yes, sir, I would. I'm John Hill III, and I'm here with my family that represents Homestead Plantation LLC. I'd like to state that those of us here that are speaking are not against Air Liquide or the project in West Baton Rouge. We are against the location of the project. So I have questions for Mr. Giles. It was my understanding that you have a 100-mile pipeline, basically, and this project is being, the genesis of this project is for a plant in Geismar. Is that correct?
Yes.
So could it be anywhere along this pipeline system? If this doesn't seem that close to Geismar, so what's the benefit of this location to Geismar?
Mr. Hill, could you direct your comments to the committee? We're
No,
not picking up
I
his,
understand.
we're not picking up his comments
Right.
on the.
Can you come up and
call,
answer
so-
after, if I ask
Sure,
certain
just
questions?
give us the questions and he'll get a time to answer the question.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So one question is, could the air
Mr.
separation
Hill,
plant
Please
be,
address your comments to us, please.
could the air separation plant be anywhere along this pipeline system?
Okay, that's question one.
What are the other locations in West Baton Rouge Parish that have been considered? And you mentioned that the one or a couple reasons that made this site attractive is the proximity to the Entergy distribution lines, power lines, and your existing pipelines. Do you have rights at this point to access from the site those pipelines, those power lines?
Okay.
That's it.
That's
Thank
it?
you.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to answer his question? That was 4 questions, wasn't it?
I got three.
3?
'Cause
3
I think-
questions.
I think one of, it was three, okay.
Okay. We're having some good comments from both sides of the fence, so we appreciate y'all's input. Okay, would you like to answer the question?
Thank you, John, for your comments. I appreciate it. You asked 3 questions. The first was, can the ASU be located anywhere along our pipeline system? In general, we build our pipeline system to be able to allow us to do that exact thing, which is to give us as many options as we want or desire to chase after to locate our air separation unit. So the shorter answer is yes. We can locate the ASU elsewhere. And I'll just leave it at that. Other locations in West Baton Rouge Parish that are being considered, that's a good question. We do have several that are being considered that are on our list. They do extend from the Port of Baton Rouge to the north of the Lofton Lane site. So there are several that are on our list. We would like the Lofton Lane site to be on our list. We think it has advantages for us, and it minimizes the amount of excavation work that needs to be done in order to reach our pipeline systems. It minimizes the amount of wires that need to be strung across the land in order to feed our system with electric power. And it minimizes the distance that we need to go in order to dispose of the 140 gallons a minute of wastewater that will come out of the site. So those are some considerations that we have on our list, and so we would like to continue to keep Lofton Lane on our list. Lafayette Lane, I apologize. And the third question that you asked was, do we currently have the right to access those pipelines? The short answer to that is no. We always need to get a servitude from the landowner that has our pipelines contained on it. And so the answer to that is we need to get that servitude from the existing landowner. And we assume that there will be a cooperative landowner when we go to build a site, but that is one of the things that we'll need to work out in the meantime, is to get the right in order to connect to our existing pipelines. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, sir. Okay, are there any other comments?
Mr. Tilton, I would like to rise to address the alternative sites that just came up.
Could you come put it in, speaking of Mike, Mr. George, please?
Yes, sir, I'll be happy to speak into the mic. It turns out that TMI Industries owns a 24-acre tract on Highway 1. There's a high energy power line running right over it, so they can connect to it. There's a large ditch right behind the property that would carry away the water that they generate. They could run their pipelines parallel to Highway 1 down to connect to their existing pipelines. So that would be it's surrounded by I-2 and I-3 industry, so it'd be very, very acceptable as an alternative site. And we have suggested that in the past. So there is an alternative site here in West Baton Rouge Parish that we would support. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else?
My name's Louis Veely, TMI Enterprise, of course. And first, I'd like to rebuttal a few things that was said, I feel that were incorrectly. 78 decimals, 2,300 feet. Let me compare 85 decimals is when an 18-wheeler cranks its engine. So that gives you an idea. I'm sure we all been close to an 18-wheeler. Well, 78 decimals we know is less than 8. And can you imagine it 2,300 feet from your house? That definitely does not require to wear earplugs for life. I just wanted to rebuttal that one. That was, I think Stacy was maybe under a misunderstanding. Mr. George Hill said that there would be 800 employees. I believe that that's only going to be 300 employees at the peak time. We all know how difficult the construction of a bridge is, of our benefit or asset. We have to go through this little bit of time. But we also know the benefit of these construction people being here that will help the barbecue joints, the people that has our little businesses in town. But that is only 300 as peak time for a short time. One other rebuttal, Mr. George just said that we have a 24-acre tract. That is true. The part he's failed to leave out is that the front part is previously occupied by a rental company that I have rented to for 5 years. That's the M&E Rental. Y'all all know them on Highway 1. Also, you got American Mat and All Mop Response. So they are there using the front part. That does leave us the rear part, which is quite big enough for to do the job. We have a problem with that. There's reason that we here and we haven't even kicked Laffit Lane to the road is because we're having trouble fitting it. Our engineers have been working steadily. We have 8.92 of an acre to try to fit it on. So as we speak, the engineers are taking the plan apart because of the difficulties with Laffit Lane. So we're going to try to put it on at 8.92 acres. Now, why do we only have 829 acres? We have a Paris ditch that delivers Paris water through there. I don't think we can take that out. We have 2 natural gas pipelines, and we have a high energy line. When you take all that away, there's an acre left of land on the other side. So we're trying to figure out a way to put that there. We just wanted to run dual routes. The way I see this thing is, the way I understand it is, I hope that we can figure this out. I have no problem putting it over there. Air Lakees has no problem putting it over on Highway 1. It's I-2. It's very close to my home, and I have no problem with that because the interstate's very close to my home, and I'm sure that some of them motorcycles are much higher in decimals. But either way, that is working parallel, but we can't depend on that being put together. We have to work both angles of seeing which will happen. So if it fits there, we don't have a problem, but we don't know if it's going to fit there, and it's going to cram it into 8.92 available acres. I would like everybody, I'd like to ask the question to the zoning of each and every one of y'all that why I have a little question that I know on the previous meeting, it was my understanding that there was an I-2 zoning, and it was in the request to do some sandblasting in the sugarcane area. Now, to me, this is a very similar situation. I measured the nearest house, and the nearest house in the situation that y'all just granted I-2 to was 2,000, according to my measurements, was 2,250 feet. Where I measured 2,300 feet to Stacy's house, I did not certify that, but it is a pretty good estimation. So it's very similar situation that y'all just granted an I-2. But when I look at the values that we bring, more than the sandblasting out in the cane field, we're very similar in residence distance. So that's a similarity. We have a much lower noise level. The sound level of a sandblaster is way over 100 because of the sand coming out over the tip. And so that is the same distance, and they're not prepared to use earplugs at those residents. So we also understand how much more friendlier is this situation than sandblasting in the middle of a cane field. We're not dealing with paint. We're not dealing with dust. We're sucking in atmosphere, compressing it. There's not 200 trucks coming in. There's not 200 trucks coming out. We suck in atmosphere, dropping it in a pipeline. I would view it as a little honeybee sitting out there humming. And I guarantee you, 2,300 feet, you're going to be difficult. As I put my earplugs in today, not plugs, but I'm sorry. That was a Joe Biden moment, but my hearing aids, I'm not used to them. But I did put them in, and I would find it difficult to be able to hear the Air Lakeeds from the street with my hearing aids, is how I find. And I know we're not going to make no dust. Now, when making a much larger capital investment, I would say about $139 million more than the sandblasting in the cane field. And we have no dust. Now, everybody's rights has been spoken for, and everybody has listened, but I feel sometimes like the red-headed stepchild of my rights. I am a landowner, a large landowner in West Baton Rouge. I have done a lot of wonderful things for West Baton Rouge. I pay a whole lot of taxes, and I would love to share the burden of taxes with somebody else too. And I would just ask y'all to really think about this. And if the other landowner was voted A2, I would ask you for your support to say, why am I so different? And why don't I have the voice to get that accomplished if we can get sandblasting 2,300 from the airfield? Any questions that I may answer for y'all?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you much.
Did you sign the book?
I'm gonna sign it and bring it right, if you don't mind, I'm gonna bring it right here and sign it. And you can move on.
Good evening, guys. My name's Adam Beatty. I stand before you guys as a 30-plus year resident of West Baton Rouge. I think we can all agree that the growth in this parish over the last 30 years has been nothing short of incredible. And really, we can attest that growth to companies like Air Liquide, where they place interest in our parish and then they go through the proper steps to move forward. Without aggressive growth plans like that, also being employed by a small business locally at an engineering firm, it's essentially people like this that keep people like me employed, right? Some of the auxiliary services that he's referring to, the maintenance, some of the construction aspects of what goes on to keep this business going directly contributes to my household, to my twins, to my daughter, to their education, to trying to provide the best possible life that I possibly can for my family. So I've always been a proponent of growth in West Baton Rouge, and I think that I'm pretty sure we've done a very good job of it thus far since I've been alive. And then not only me, but I think probably every single person in this room knows someone who's an operator in this industry in general. So if we were to turn down or turn away a company like Air Liquide, while it may only be 10 to 12 permanent operator positions and 30 to 50 maintenance positions, it's considered a microcosm of turning down industry in general, and I just don't think that West Baton Rouge should do that. Without people like Shintech, without people like Dow, without people like Air Liquide that continue to invest in what we've got here in West Baton Rouge, everybody in this room would know someone probably without a job, or they'd have to travel to Geismar to go to a job, or to somewhere else to go to a job where we can, just as capable as everybody else, have it and hold it here. So again, that's where I stand on it, and not to mention the trickle-down effect of the economics in the area as well. My wife does hair in Bruley. I mean, that's additional clients. Everybody here knows all the local restaurants. Again, 300 people at capacity for almost a year. That's pretty substantial to have all these people right here calling out to-go orders and things of that nature. I think that, again, we should really consider voting in favor for this particular property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, Mr. Louis talked about the sandblasting yard 4 or 5 times in his comments, and that was my neighbor. And don't get me wrong, I didn't really want a sandblasting yard to be my neighbor. But, you know, the guy said he had 20 or 30 employees on the job. That was 20 or 30 families that were being supported by the sandblasting yard. So the only thing that I could do was ask him to try to be environmentally friendly and try to make it as easy as they could on the employees and the surrounding area. So, because like I said, you got to give jobs to the people in the parish. They can't cross the bridge anymore. That's out the question. If you get in Baton Rouge, you can't even get back over here. Seems like every time you have a peak time, well, it's going to be a wreck on the old bridge and new bridge. I believe last Thursday you had both bridges tied up at the same time. So if we can keep people in the parish, working in the parish, it'd be a lot better with the transportation problem that we have in our parish. Okay, is there anybody else that has a comment? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jamie Hanks. I'm Executive Director of the West Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to speak in support of this wonderful project. I have been meeting with the company for a couple of months now, and I believe they've been nothing but transparent with those and our parish representatives and those officials, and now in front of our community as well. Most of my testimony has already been spoken for, but I do want to emphasize that this is a $145 million capital investment in West Baton Rouge Parish. And yes, we have also discussed potential locations in the parish, but we have not discussed the possibility of losing it to another adjacent parish. And I would hate to see that being lost. In my 5 years at the Chamber of Commerce, this is our second brand new plant that has come before us. We've only had expansions. So this is pretty big, and this company has been good stewards. They're already located in Addis on the Dow facility. Again, they have 200 employees in our state. Half have already reside in our parish in East Baton Rouge as well. So anything I can do to support this project, I'm here to do. And if y'all have any questions from me, please let me know. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Could you sign the book, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, I'm Randy Willis. I just bought a lovely $347,000 home on Rosedale Road, and this is going to be an unsightly chemical plant in my front yard. It's going to be straight across the street from my house. I'm asking y'all not to vote for it at this location. I mean, how many of y'all would actually want to purchase a home with a chemical plant in the front yard? I'm sure none of y'all will. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Okay, sign the book, please, sir.
Yes.
This is on Lapitan.
It's between Lapitan and Rosedale. It's 35 acres between the two.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Raleigh Berthelot, Parish President. I do want to let you know that we had a letter of support from Billy Nungus. He addressed it to me, and it pretty much says everything that Marty said earlier about the 300 jobs, the 8 to 10 employees at the plant. And I want to enter that into the record. I think y'all may have a copy of that.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure this was part of the public record.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, and I will sign the book.
Okay, does anybody have any fresh comments? Okay.
It's John Hill III speaking again. I just want to remind everyone that the item on the agenda tonight has to do with the rezoning of attractive land, not if this is a good project for West Baton Rouge or not. Those of us speaking who may be considered against the project, we're not against the project, we're against the location of the project. We think it would be a good thing for West Baton Rouge, just not at this location. There's a master plan for zoning that was developed for a reason. And this use is not compatible with that master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah.
Just for the record, the code states exactly, I'm Lynn Klein, West Baton Rouge Parish. I'm the clerk as well as Kevin's assistant. The code states that I have to mail certified letters. The property has to be posted. It has to be listed in the West Side Journal, which is our paper of record 3 times. And we are also posting everything on the parish website, which the code does not require. We're just getting ready for the future. But all of the adjacent property owners' certified mail all goes out the same day after it's introduced, which in this case was October the 11th of 2019. Some of them have come back, some have not. As the same thing that happened the last time, when someone has a notice of certified mail, the mail makes 3 attempts to deliver it, okay? Ms. Krebs, yours, it went out for delivery from the post office on the 17th, October the 17th. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I can only tell you what I do.
All I can tell you is I never.
But anyway, if anyone has any questions about the process, whatever's in the code is exactly what we do. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes. I'm human. But we take every effort to make sure everyone is notified as much as possible. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, since Mr. Hill mentioned the master plan, I did want to mention too, before you vote tonight, this is not a master plan change as far as we can tell. We did try to get clarification on that. We did reach out to a third-party land use attorney. We did have a conversation with that attorney. And that industrial classification was already assigned to this tract of land in 2018 when the applicant successfully received a special use permit for industrial uses on that property. So that has already been assigned to that tract, this industrial nature. So this vote tonight does not constitute a master plan change, therefore a 2/3 majority will not be needed on this vote.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other comments? Yeah, none. Anybody on the commission have any comments?
Yeah, I just want to say that every day I pass by an Air Liquide plant, and one thing that it was small, I admired about the plant is that it was quite a neat little plant. During my traveling during the day, when I'm out in the field, I have traveled past other plants, Air Liquide plants, and if this is a replica of the others that are already built, I do feel that it would be beneficial to our city, our community, our parish to support this, because what I've seen, it's a boost to the industry. I think that, like the gentleman said, that he just built a home, looking straight at it. We'll be looking at the plant, and I'm in the same area, so I mean, I know we get comfortable in our positions where we are, and when we get lax, don't want any interference and interruption, but we have to realize that when we are trying to provide for somebody else, or when someone is trying to provide for their livelihood, I don't think we should have the right to try and interfere. If it's something that's not bringing harm to the community as a whole, or the people as a whole. I think when it's something to benefit more than not, I think we should be supported. There are many things that we have to adapt to every day or every year. But in the long run, I heard you say something earlier, Ms. John, that there was with the sandblasting, you didn't want it next to you, but you became, you adapt to that, and it may or may not work out, but we have to, just like things we do, when we do new things, we give it a try. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, then we try to rectify it. But when there is an industry that is coming into our area, I think thinking of this parish as a whole, thinking of our community, thinking of Port Allen right now, that we should be supportive of whatever boost we can get for this community. Like I stated, I passed by a few of these plants, and I was very impressed because it was like a little toy, it looked like a little kid's toy box or something to me. But it was real clean, it was contained, and it wasn't anything that really brought the environment or the surrounding area down that would, like, oh, they need to clean up. No, it was a very neat, constructive plant, and I feel that, as I stated, if this is a replica of what the other ones are like, I think it would be a really good boost for this community. That's my stance.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackson. Anybody else in the commission? Okay, then, at this time, I'm gonna close the public hearing. This time, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with item number 3C.
Recommended for approval.
Pardon?
I recommend it for approval.
Okay, motion. Russell Gully, second by Ms. Green. Okay, if you would, mark your ballot.
You got 3,
6 to 3, so it passes. Okay. Thank you all. At this time, Ms. Jackson. Make a motion to adjourn. Okay.
Mr. John, under public comments, I just want to remind and invite everyone to the Veterans Day parade we're going to have Sunday at 1:30 here in Port Allen. There'll be a ceremony at the museum to follow. So come out and support the veterans if you can. Thank
That's
you.
at 1 o'clock?
1:30 Sunday.
1:30?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Okay. All of y'all received a copy of the minutes of our previous meeting? There's no.
We
additional
still have a
corrections?
meeting to continue. Excuse me, we still have our planning meeting. That's okay.
Could y'all please keep the noise down? We have a meeting. in
We
progress.
still have our planning meeting to attend to, please.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for your comments. Okay. I believe you all had a copy of the meeting, previous meeting minutes, so if there's no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve
I'll
those.
make a motion we approve.
Okay, motion, second? Okay. All those in favor, mark your ballot. Okay. Unanimous. Correspondence. Okay. Public hearing, none. Other business, none. Ms. Jackson? Ms. Jackson? Make a motion to adjourn. Second by Russell.
Okay.
Okay.
And Russell. Can we roll with that? Ms. Jackson and Russell?
Okay.
Thank you.
Ready to start the vote? Okay.
Ray, you want to hang around? Okay.
Oh, help me push my chair out.
Well, everybody, thank y'all for coming.
That went better than I expected. Thank y'all. Well, for a change, people showed up to be for it and not just against it.
Yeah,
Dr.
well,
just-
you have both sides of the fence.
Oh, yeah.
I said, we had a bunch of comments from both sides of the fence on the thing.
Take a deep breath.
I was watching it, I said,
We gotta go to the council now, and it'll be over with.